code to demonstrate some of the use cases. And we'll take some live examples and we'll walk you through with the code to make you understand how machine learning algorithms can be used in some of the data science practices. Fine, guys. So let's get started with the first algorithm called clustering. Okay. So every hour I'll be covering one algorithm. One is clustering. Another I'll be talking about the regression techniques. So be it k-mean clustering or dendrogram based clustering. Uh, so next would be about the market basket concept. Okay. So we'll be using the a priori algorithm. So we'll be talking all these in detail. Fine. So let's get started. And so we all know what is cluster analysis. The cluster is a collection of data objects similar to one another within the same cluster and dissimilar to the object in other clusters. So they are distant apart, and within the cluster they have the same features. So they are grouped separately, and the distance between the clusters are more than the objects within their same cluster. Cluster analysis, the grouping of a set of data objects into clusters, is called the cluster analysis. And the clustering is unsupervised classification, and because it has no predefined classes, so it's more of an unsupervised techniques. So typical applications would be as a standalone tool to get insight into the data distribution, and as a pre-processing step for other algorithms. So this data can be used for some other algorithms. So some of the examples of clustering applications. The best use is in marketing. So it helps the marketers to discover distinct groups in their customer base. So they have thousands and thousands of their customers, and they want to cluster them with respect to certain distinctions. So they can run a clustering algorithm and find out different clusters, and accordingly then they can use specific product for different clusters of their customers, and then use this knowledge to develop the target marketing programs. So whenever we are talking about target marketing, so before that you have to do a clustering of your customer base. And where does the customer base come from? Your CRM, your sales, right? Your invoice or your customers who are purchasing products from your shop. So these are your customers. Even in land use, identification of areas of similar land use in an Earth observation database. In your atlas, I'm sure you would have seen those clusters of the same color, right? The higher the mountain, the different colors are there with different heights. At peak of it, you would see white color, then brown, dark brown, and all that different colors, green patches, right? All water bodies are in a single color. So that way, you will see all those are clustered into different colors based on their different uses. Insurance, identifying the group of motor insurance policy holders with a high average claim cost. So those users, those customers which have a high claim cost, they can be grouped separately, and their insurance can be high. Their uh, focus would be more on those customers who have a high claim cost. In the city planning, like identifying the groups of houses according to their house type, value, geographical location, right? So different characteristics can be defined for this city planning. Earthquake studies. Observed earthquake epicenter should be clustered along the continent fault. So it is said that the North India is very prone to these earthquakes, right? So they are in the zone 3, they call it zone 3 earthquake. So it has different zones. So they are all clustered together into different zones. Climate, understanding the earth climate, finding the patterns of atmosphere and ocean, right? So they all can be using the clustering algorithm. So what is a good clustering? So the good clustering method produces a high quality clusters with high intra-class similarity. Within the class, similarity would be high, and low inter-class. So one cluster would be different from another cluster. So their features will not match, right? So their similarity between the inter-class is low. So When these two features are there, it is said to be a good clustering. Now, the quality of a clustering results depend on both the similarity measures used by the method and its implementation. So we'll be talking about some of the algorithms which we will be implementing. So the quality of a clustering method is also measured by its ability to discover some or all of a hidden patterns. So if you are able to find out those separate clusters within your database, that is what is the purpose of quality clustering. That means you are able to find out some these hidden patterns from the data. If you have massive data, I'm sure looking at the data you will not be able to identify anything, but doing a clustering analysis, you are able to identify different clusters, and then those hidden patterns can be very well cleared. And the requirements of the clustering in data mining is your scalability, ability to deal with different type of attributes, discovery of clusters with arbitrary shapes. So clusters are can be of arbitrary shape or some other right. So minimal requirements for domain knowledge to determine input. So system will generate a clustering data. So very less domain knowledge is required to run a clustering algorithm. But somewhere when you are doing a target marketing, then you need to know what kind of this cluster, what kind of product would be best fit for this kind of a cluster, right? Some cluster would be formed where age groups of less than 18, right? And school going, college going. So if you have a bigger database, you can cluster them based on different uh, parameters. It's able to deal with noise and outliers. So some of them would be not lying in any of these clusters. So these are outliers. It is so requirement is to identify these outliers also. If one particular point is outside the maximum of it, it will not come in any of these clusters. So the system should be able to find out some of these outliers also. Insensitive to order of input records and high dimensionality. Incorporation of user specified constraints and interpretability and usability. These are the requirements of a clustering algorithm. So these are two type of data structures that these algorithms use. One is called two modes, which is a n by p kind of a matrix. So n rows and p columns. So this matrix will have almost all the data, and then you have a dissimilarity matrix, which is one mode where across the diagonal, only on one side of the diagonal you would find the data, other side is all zeros. So this is one mode. So these are used in different kind of clustering algorithms. So measures of quality of clustering, we said that similarity or dissimilarity matrix. Similarity is expressed in the terms of a distance function, which is typically distance of I and j, right? There is a separate quality function that measures the goodness of the cluster. So when we run our clustering algorithm, so these are the keywords that we'll be using, right? Quality function, right? So we'll see what is the quality of this cluster. The definition of distance functions are usually very different for the interval scale, Boolean, categorical kind of a data, ordinal or ratio variable. So different type of data will have different type of different distance functions. Weight should be associated with different variables based on application in data semantic. It is hard to define similar enough or good enough. The answer is typically highly objective, so it doesn't make sense similar enough or good enough. So that can be only measured by the quality function output. So what are these clustering approaches that we are talking about? One is the partitioning algorithm, construct the various partitions and then evaluate them by some criteria. So you know that I have a cluster of data. So if I divide in 3 sections mainly, I will be able to get some of these clusters. So partitioning algorithm, and then you should have some method to evaluate the criteria. Hierarchical algorithm, it creates a hierarchical decomposition of all the set of data using some criteria. So we'll be using this algorithm. Density based, so based on the connectivity and density functions. Grid based, based on multiple level granularity structure, and the model based. So first two are more prominent in industry, and I'll be talking about the k-mean clustering and the hierarchical clustering. let's say I have the data, 6 points are there. So individually they are all 6 clusters, right? Individually all points can be considered as a cluster, but we have to reduce them. So we see A and B being very near to each other. Similarly, C and D being near. So that leads to 4 clusters, right? And then the iteration takes it to a next level where this cluster, which is C and D, the E point is very near to this cluster, so that also is considered to be part of the same cluster then. So now we have 3 clusters, and when this becomes a bigger cluster, this is a smaller cluster very near to it, this can be considered as another cluster. So when we are creating 2 clusters, then A, B, C, D, E becomes 1 cluster and F becomes another cluster. So these are 2 clusters, and when all points are considered, it is 1 cluster, of course. So that's how we would run our model, try to find out what is the best optimum cluster size from various uh, algorithms, and then we will do the clustering based on those number of clusters we would be creating. So how do we do that? First is that if you have lot of data, lot of columns, some of these columns would be almost similar in nature, right? So there is a concept of principal component analysis where the dimensions can be reduced and only relevant. So those columns or variables which are relevant for our clustering purpose are only considered. Those which are similar in nature would be minimized, and then we calculate which is the best variable we should consider. So this is called the principal component analysis. So it is the dimensionality reduction technique. It's more of a numerical method.
Mangalia.
Yes, somebody was saying something.
It may be by mistake, sir.
Okay, no issues. I thought somebody was asking some question or something.
It may be by mistake.
That's okay, sir. So, principal component analysis we said was primarily a dimension reduction technique, wherein multiple columns can be reduced to maybe a single or a 2 column or 2 variables, and primarily for visualization of array and samples, performs a rotation of the data that maximizes the variance in the. So, whichever columns have most variance with each other, they are only considered. Instead of 100 columns, it can be reduced to only 5 or 6 columns, where other columns may not have data or the relevance is low, and in such a case the data can then be reduced to 4 or 5 columns, and then analysis can be done very effectively. So it projects high dimensional data into a low dimensional subspace, visualizing 2 or 3 dimensions only. Often captures much of the total data variation in a few dimensions, less than 5. So if you have hundreds of columns, it can then be reduced into 5 columns only, which can then be managed, and effectively you can do analysis. So you are doing analysis on the relevant information. So what irrelevant information, which is kind of repeat information, may be reduced to only less than 5 dimensions. Exact solution requires fully determined system, which is matrix with full rank. A square matrix with independent rows are called the full rank data. So principal component analysis, the first principal component, the direction along which is the greatest variance. So this is that variable column which has the maximum variation from the others, right? So which is called the first principal. The second PC2, or the second principal component, the direction with maximum variation left in the data. So whatever is the left in the data, so one variable they have identified which is the maximum of a variable from varying from the other data. That is the first. So we know that this particular column is most useful for our analysis. Then from the remaining one, it considers the most variation one, so that is PC2. And then from the remaining, the best variation data would be PC3, and so on. So we know that these columns are the relevant ones where the variations are high, and finally we would see the variation between the other are very low. So then we can ignore the other variables. You can only consider one of them, others can be ignored. So principal component, then general about principal component is the summary variables. It summarizes the variables and linear combination of the original variables uncorrelated with each other and capture as much of the original variance as possible. So it considers those many columns which is relevant for the analysis purpose. So this is how the principal component analysis variance would be calculated. And now from the data we can see that the first is the maximum variance, second, third, and from fourth onwards, or fourth we can consider, and fifth onward it is almost the same. The variance is very low. So these all columns have almost similar kind of a data, right? So only one of them can be considered. And if you want to consider only four of them, PC1 to PC4 can be. Ideal would be PC1 to PC5 because all this data from PC5 till 10 are almost of the same variance and only one of column can be considered. So we'll be using this concept for our clustering algorithm, right? So generally these three we said k-mean clustering, hierarchical clustering, and people also use the density based clustering. So I'll be talking more in detail about the k-mean and the hierarchical clustering. So this is how the k-mean clustering algorithm works. So if you have plotted all the data points, and let's say we have to cluster n from the n data, we have to cluster k clusters, let's say. Okay. So clustering refers to the problem of partitioning a set of objects according to some problem dependent measures of similarity. So in the k mean variant, so k is the, let's say 3 in this case. Okay, so 3 mean variant we are calculating given n points. So from the 100 points, let us say, so which are points x1 to x100. The goal is to position k centroid, 3 centroid, c1, c2, c2. So we have 3 centroids we are, so that sum of the distances between each point and its closest centroid is minimized. So all those points for which the distance between this centroid and the point is all minimized is called the centroid of that cluster. Okay, so each centroid represents a cluster that consists of all the points to which the centroid is closest. So we are trying to find out a centroid which minimizes the total distance between all the points and its centroid, and the function, the sum becomes sum of xj, which is any of these points j. So xj belongs to all these si's, and minus mu I. So mu I is the centroid, the distance between them, and the absolute value. Sum could be negative and positive, so it is squared, and the sum is minimized. So that is how the k-mean clustering works. The example of the k-mean clustering could be which blocks are spam blocks, right? So you have a lot of blocks there, and if you want to run your algorithm, you can find out which are these blocks which are spam, some of auto return, right? So you can identify from the pattern. Given a user's preference, which other block might he or she enjoy? So it is trying to cluster a similar preference data. What are our customers saying about us? So you are trying to cluster customers around good, those who are saying good about us, saying neutral about us, some who are saying bad about us. So you are trying to cluster your customers according to what they are saying. Another example could be marketing, as I said, right? So marketing is target marketing. Astronomy, you're trying to similar stars, similar galaxies, they're all clustered together, and they are called a group of clusters. So they are all clusters as with respect to different features. Earthquake study, as I said, so based on the epicenter, so you cluster the continent into different zones. Genomics, which is finding groups of genes with similar expressions. K-mean clustering, the advantage is it is simple, understandable. So you just find out what is the best number of clusters in your data set. So from the data set, it will identify which is the best uh, number of clusters, and you run that number of clusters. It will simply run the algorithm to find out those number of cluster data. Items automatically assigns to these clusters. Disadvantage is must pick number of clusters beforehand. So you have to pass the number of clusters you want to create, 3, 4, 5, and that is a cumbersome process, right? So it could be from a big data, massive amount of data. First you have to run the algorithm to find out what is the number of optimum size of cluster size, right? So then you have to run your, so it is a two time iterative process. So first you have to find out from the data how many number of clusters would be the best cluster. And if you know from your heuristics that I want to create some 7, 8 clusters from this data, so just run that cluster, that's okay. But optimum clusters would be based on some mathematical models. All items falls into a cluster, so it doesn't consider the outliers. So K-mean clustering, it tries to fit in all points into with any of these clusters. So by hook and crook, it will find out one cluster associated with all the individual points. So one point cannot be of two clusters. So every point would be assigned to either first cluster, second cluster, third cluster, or whatever is the number of clusters. So it is too sensitive to outliers. It doesn't consider that as an outlier. But there are algorithms. First, it will identify the outliers. It will remove them into a separate cluster. All outliers are a separate cluster. Then from the remaining data, it will do the clustering. So there are advanced K-mean clustering algorithms. So this concern trends and categories of, so search for relevant blocks, fingerprinting based on word frequencies, similarity measures, identify the cluster of documents. So these are some of the use cases. Methods would be consider the document histogram. So this is particularly relevant to clustering your documents according to different clustering algorithms. Transform the histogram into document fingerprint. So you are trying to identify the group of clusters of these documents. Use clustering techniques to discover similar kind of a document. Right. So the point is that you have to first train your algorithm. So the K-mean algorithm can be invoked in 4 ways, depending on the source of the initial set of centroid. So use the random centroid seeding method. First approach is random centroid. You place, let's say if you are creating 3 clusters, place them randomly and then try to calculate the mean. If the mean of those clusters is separate from the centroid, right? So that mean, if the centroid becomes the that mean becomes the centroid of this center, and then that distance is again calculated, and the mean of it is again calculated. If that mean of the points and the centroid is again changed, so that new mean is becomes the centroid. So it's a iterative process. Use the K-mean plus centroid seeding method. So there are different approaches to the initial random seeding of these centroids. Supply an initial centroid set in a relation identified by the rel initial centroid argument. You are forcing that place one centroid here, one centroid here, and one centroid here, and now run the algorithm. Provide an initial centroid set as an array expression of initial centroid argument, right? So this is, you are forcing and you are providing. So these are different approaches where how you can give the centroid points. Fine. Let's take an example. So we have plotted number of clusters or points here, and arbitrarily choose k object as initial cluster centers. Assign each object to the most similar center, right? And then update the cluster. Fine. Reassign and update the cluster. So accordingly, those points which are lying away are part of that cluster. We'll be taking an example of this. Okay. So a simple clustering algorithm K-mean. So pick up a number k, which is k number of clusters of cluster centers at random, let's say. Okay, assign every item to its nearest cluster center using the Euclidean distance, so absolute value and xi minus mu I and the square of it. Okay, move each cluster center to the mean of its assigned. So we are now the centroid, this cluster center, the mean becomes the centroid. Fine. Then repeat step 2 and 3 until convergence. So until this centroid and mean is almost similar, hardly any distance, less than a, otherwise what will happen if there is no threshold, the mean and centroid, let's say if these are two very near points. So when you assign the mean as the centroid, the remaining points mean would become this one. So again you would switch over. So that becomes the infinite loop, right? So that is why we are saying that when that centroid and the mean becomes less than that threshold value, or it becomes that threshold, it is within that threshold value, then stop the iteration process. So generally it is said that in 8 to 9 iterations, the centroid and mean converges. So that becomes the centroid of that cluster, and those points become one cluster. So this is the algorithm. Okay. So k-mean random, you have to pass these values: relative source, expression points, k is number of clusters, the different methods, aggregation of centroid, maximum number of iterations you want to do, and minimum fractal reascent. So that is the minimum distance between the centroid and the mean. K-mean plus, so you are centroid seeding, so randomly it will calculate the average first and then seed those centroid. So there are algorithms to find out the where you want to start that centroid. Placing the centroid is also, there is an algorithm. So initial centroid is set as, so you are passing the centroid as certain points. You are forcing that these are the 3 centroid points. Now run the algorithm. So initial centroid, you are passing an array. So first point x comma x1 comma y1. Second array part would be x2 comma y2, and similarly, so it will calculate how many k value from these points, and it will start running into and create k number of clusters. So k-mean clustering, the cluster is closest. So the first algorithm is called, after training, the cluster assignment for each data point can be computed with the help of following function. So these assign the output would be number of centroids. And what is the quality of these clustering? The output can be calculated using this simple Silhouette method. A popular method to assign the quality of the clustering is this Silhouette coefficient, a simplified version of which is provided as part of the k-mean module. Note that for large data sets, this computation could be expensive. So it is calculating the quality of the clustering. So it will take a lot of time if the data set is too high. So it is only valid or efficient for a smaller data set. So simple Silhouette is the relative source, the expression points, the centroids, and the function distance. So based on all these, it will calculate the various, if 4 clusters are best or 5 clusters are best, it will give you the value of the quality of the clustering. For 1 cluster, what is the quality? For 2 clusters, what is the quality? So you are able to find out the best optimum. We'll see how. So let's say, what are our customers saying about us? So all the data points are plotted in a x and y axis, and we assign, let's say, 3 centroids. Are you able to see green, red, and blue as 3 different centroids? So we have placed them by various algorithms. So we got these 3 points and we have placed them. Now we are calculating the nearest point distance using the Euclidean distance method, right? And we calculate all the distance between them and also calculate the mean of these points. So this mean for red and this orange one is far away. So in the next iteration, this mean would become the centroid of these points, and then again all these points, again the data would be calculated, right? So from blue and light blue becomes your mean. From this dark green and light green is the center of these. So in the next iteration, the mean had become the centroid. Again the mean and mean is calculated, right? So you would see the mean of these points have moved away, so which means now this would become the mean of the centroid of the in the next iteration. Okay, so you are seeing that the centroid, the points are getting closer, the centroid and mean is almost getting closer. So you would see in multiple iterations that the distance between centroid and the mean and the, you would see the moment, see at this point of time these 3 points were part of this cluster, but when this mean became the centroid in the next iteration, it was not possible to consider these 3 points as part of this, and the distance from green was in the average was nearer to the green one. So now those points have gone to the green one. Okay, so now it is calculating the centroid and mean again. So that if those two become almost the same, those are now the 3 clusters. So what are these 3 clusters? Primarily people who are talking about the innovation, leadership and design part. So those people, your customers who are talking about that your product is very innovative, you are in the leaders quadrant and all that positive feedback about the innovation part of it. Some people who are talking about the speed of the portal, the graphics, the improvement part, right? So those are different clusters. And there are people who would be talking about the bug, the installation issues, the download issues. So they are all clustered together as the green cluster, right? So accordingly, now you would see that the innovation part has become one cluster. The UI and speed and portal related has become another cluster, and the issues related to the portal has become another cluster, right? So the data has accordingly created these 3 clusters. Fine. So we have already talked about the partitioning algorithm, the hierarchical algorithm, density based algorithm and the grid based. So there are different methods available. I have listed them. You can go through them. So in the partitioning cluster, k-mean clustering I'll be covering, and in the hierarchical clustering, the dendrogram decomposition clustering I'll be covering. Okay. There are a few other model based. So I thought I'll share all the approaches for your ready reference. Frequent pattern based, user guided or constraint based, link based clustering. So there are different algorithms available. So let's talk about, so I've talked about the k-mean clustering. Now we'll talk about the hierarchical clustering. So assign each item to as its own cluster. So n number of items, n number of clusters, right? Then join the nearest clusters. So those points which are very near to each other, start joining 2 points together. So in the next cluster, you would find 2 points, or even a single point if it is away. And then in the next iteration, try to find out those 2 points nearer to any other nearest cluster, and then it is merging all the data to a single cluster. So from n number of clusters, you are iterating n times to make it a single cluster. All points become a single cluster. So repeat for 1 to n. So it is, if 1000 customer points are there, it is run 1000. So for individual becomes 1000 clusters. Then it is trying to create 2 points together, right? So it may lead to some 500 clusters. Then it is iterating. So let's take an example here. All these points in the first iteration is individual clusters, and then it is trying to create wherever those 2 points are together, right? Wherever those 2 points are together, so they become one cluster. So right, So now the number of clusters have reduced, and wherever those 2 points or 3 points are very near to each other, they become one cluster. Now from this iteration, another whichever are nearest. So from these two, this is nearest, so it becomes one cluster. From these two, another point is near, so it becomes one cluster. From these 3 points, one more point is near, so these become one more cluster. Right? So this becomes another iteration. Similarly, the iterations are increased and the cluster size keep increasing, and it will become a single cluster when all the data points are considered. Right? So this becomes the 5th iteration. This is the after the 8th iteration. This is after the 12th iteration. And if there are 20 points in the 20th iteration, it will become a single cluster. Fine. And this is primarily a concept of the Venn diagram. So if you can visualize as a Venn diagram, so if you consider all these points as individual clusters, then wherever 2 points are near, you are considering them as one cluster. So these become different clusters. And then you are considering 3 points together, right? So this is 2 point and this is 3 point. And then you are considering a bigger cluster of all these 5 points. Then finally a complete. So this can be represented using a dendrogram. So this is visualization is called dendrogram, and this is how it is represented. It's a tree-like diagram with all the required records in the sequence to merge and split. So all the points are represented below. So these are all individual clusters, and now these two become one cluster. These two has become one cluster. This is a separate cluster and this is a separate cluster, let's say. Okay, so let's say we want to create 2 clusters. So just split this into 2 clusters from this point, okay, horizontally. So all the points from this point, which are 1, 3, 2, 5 and 4, become one cluster, and 6 becomes another cluster. Fine. And let's say if you want to create 3 clusters, so you have to create a cluster which is in between this and this. So a fine line between this horizontal. So this becomes one cluster which is 1 and 3. So these become one cluster which are 2, 5 and 4, and 6 is the third cluster. Fine. Similarly 4 clusters, so just drop a line here horizontally, and 1 and 3 is one cluster, 2 and 5 another cluster, 4 as the third cluster, and 6 as the fourth cluster. Similarly, whatever is the number of clusters you want, you can create and assign the horizontal line, right? So this is what is the hierarchical clustering, a tree structure based clustering algorithm. So this is how it is represented. So those points similar nearest to each other, they get connected in the next iterations. So after 8th iteration, those points get connected, and then after 12th iteration, these points are further connecting to each other. 17th iteration, it has become almost 3 clusters, and on the 19th iteration, all these points become one cluster. So accordingly, whatever number of clusters you need, it can come out with. So these are the 2 representations of the hierarchical clustering. The data with cluster ordered and the distance is represented, and this can be represented in a tree diagram, which is a dendrogram representation. Fine. It can be represented this way as well, and you know how. So in this case, a vertical line has to be created for creating 3 clusters. To create a vertical line here, right? This accordingly. So all these points become one cluster, these points become one cluster, and these points become the third cluster. Fine. Now we can talk about the strengths of hierarchical clustering. Do not have to assume any particular number of clusters. So in the k-mean clustering, you have to pass k number of clusters. In this one, you do not have to pass any number of clusters. It represents a bit data, and now you need to obtain the cutting the dendrogram in a proper level. So if you see, visualize the data in 4 or 5 clusters, accordingly you can cut the dendrogram in 5. They may correspond to meaningful taxonomies. So right, so accordingly you can define the clusters. Dendrogram shows the cluster how these are merged together. So this is how the representation of the dendrogram is. It decomposes the data objects into several levels of nested partitions, free of clusters. This is called the dendrogram. So a clustering of the data object is obtained by cutting the dendrogram at the desired level. Then each connected component forms a cluster. Okay. And then there are different complex algorithms which are these density based. So the density of the data is near, so that becomes another cluster, and the spatial that spread out becomes another cluster, right? So there are different this chameleon based clustering algorithms are there uh, that you can go through, and this is a summary of whatever we have discussed today. Fine. So we have finally discussed the k-mean clustering and the hierarchical clustering and understood the principal component analysis. Fine, guys. That was one algorithm. Now I'll go through some of the examples of how to do a clustering using some sample data. Now I will share my desktop. And now let me the entire screen. So just give me an idea that are you able to see the R code now? Shikha, can you help me identify that?
It's visible to us.
Yeah, fine, thank you. So now I will be running the R piece of code, and I'll explain how the clustering can be done. Okay. So let's initialize all the data points. How many of you have run R code previously? Somebody you can tell me that you have run, you know R, and you have practiced R. Is anybody who understands R? Is it no? Does it mean no? Shikha, a question for you. Are they learning R as a in any of the courses? Guys, are you there? Hello?
No, sir.
You're not you've not done R, right? So what I'll do is I'll try to explain the R piece of this presentation. Okay. So are you able to see this R code now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So let me just take you through how data can be clustered. So the first example I'll show you is about a data of some flowers, which is already part of R. So I'll use that data. Iris is the data. Okay. And I'll show you how that data looks like. So data is represented in these columns, and if you see this particular data is having almost 150 rows and 1 2 3 4 5 number of columns. So these are the species of these flowers: Pentosa or versicolor, virginica. All these are the various flowers, and what is their sepal length, sepal width, and petal length and the petal width. So all that data is saved into R as a package, and we can directly use it. Let's say, okay. So I have transferred that data into an object called iris2 or iris1, whatever I can use, right? So that data is now part, when I run this, so by running this, one line of code is run. Now this iris data is transferred into iris2, and this iris2 is a 150 objects of 5 variables. And how does it look like? So all that data has been moved into iris2. So now the data which was there in iris as a standard data as part of R embedded is now extracted into a data set called iris2. Okay, and now with iris2, what is this species? Species, we are just passing, let's say, null. So that data point, that column has become null, right? Why I have done so? Otherwise it will, this digit, this numeric value. So k-mean clustering only runs on the numeric values, numbers. It doesn't run on the text. So I have just eliminated this column. So what is now in iris2? Iris2 contains the 4 variables: petal length, petal width, and similarly sepal length and sepal width of 150 sample flowers. Now I would run the k-mean clustering on dataset iris2 and pass the number of clusters as k as 3. Fine. So the output would be moved into the k-mean dot result object, right? So let me just run the k-mean clustering. So k-mean clustering has been run, and the object k-mean result has been created, and it has certain parameters. So it would say that the center point it has calculated, and it has assigned all points to either 2, cluster ID 2, cluster ID 3. So all these 150 points are now assigned to 1, 2, or 3. So these are the 3 clusters, 1, 2, and 3. We'll see how. Okay. So if we see k-mean dot result, we get all the data. So we say that 3 clusters of size. The first cluster is of 38 points, another cluster is of 50 points, another cluster is of 62 points. So out of 150, they have been clustered in now the 3 points, and now it has calculated all the 3 with the cluster mean. So all columns, the cluster mean has been calculated. Then all 150 points are now clustered into, assigned to cluster either 2, cluster 3, or cluster 1. You will see that this is the betweenness between, so betweenness of these 3 clusters, the value of sum of the squares of these, the distance, Euclidean distance is calculated. Fine. So withinness, cluster, all these are the variables which are part of this output. Now we can plot the k-mean dot result using the dataset iris2 with 2 columns as sepal length and sepal width in x and y. Okay, and assign the color as these cluster IDs. Cluster IDs are 1, 2, 3. So 3 colors would be plotted. All these 3 points are plotted with 3 colors: the red, the green, and the black. So they are different in nature, and their centroid is also calculated, and they are now clustered in 3 different ones, right? And now these are the 3 centroids. So we have plotted the centroids of these. So these centroids have been displayed. Fine. That's how we created a cluster from 150 points. Any questions from this now? Okay. So next is how to calculate this 3, right? So for we just passed 3. So now we'll be using the algorithm to find out the number of clusters. So first we have to use various. So this is how you can use the different libraries, and to list it, you can list the libraries and list the package ggplot2. All the methods used in ggplot2 are listed. And now we will be using this method called PAMK. So this is a partitioning around medioid with estimation of number of clusters. This is the output of, this is the meaning of this PAMK. So FPC is that package in which this method is there. Okay, if you want to see what is, so you could just run a question mark and select it and say run. In the output window, you would see the help on PAMK. It is coming. So partition around medioid with estimate number of clusters. PAMK method is in the package called FPC, which I have included earlier. So what is the purpose? It calculates all the the best values with number of clusters, right? So and finally you would see an example also. What are these parameters, right? It will. So you just pass iris2, which was the data set, and the result would be in PAMK result. So PAMK result has been created. Okay, then we would see what is there. NC is the number of clusters. So this is 2 is the best optimum point. So we created with 3. Okay, so we'll now create with these many number of clusters. Okay, check clustering against actual species. So if it was right, so these are against this is, if it is 2 clusters, then all these are Sentosa are part of 1 cluster. 1 of versicolor and 49 are in set 2. In Virginica, all 50 are part of the cluster 2. So 51 are as part of cluster 1 and 99 as part of cluster 2. Okay, we can see the layout of the complete matrix. So we have, now we can plot a 2 by 2 matrix plot. So now we have created a 2 by 2 where the silhouette values are calculated, and for the 2 clusters. Now all these points are clustered into 2 clusters now. Okay, so the comfort level, the value comes out to be 95.8. so 2 is the best number of clusters for this kind of a data. Fine. Now let's try with the hierarchical clustering. Set seed gives you a random sampling data, and iris we have sample data of 40 we have taken in iris sample. Remove the class label. So class was species, we have removed that. So what this does this iris sample now contain? It would contain only the 4 columns of random data, right? This is random data. Fine. Now we are going to run the hierarchical clustering using the method called hcluster. Data is in this iris sample, and the method used would be the average. So there are different methods. When you run the question mark hcluster, you would get the help on. Just do question mark on that method, you would see the help in the help window. So the hierarchical clustering, you have to pass D and the method. So what are these values? D are the dissimilarity structure of the distribution points, and methods are various methods. Okay, average, single, right? And we have used average or ABE. 3 characters are okay. So this method is used. At the end of it, you would see a sample there, a example. So you can run this example also to learn better R. Now we are going to run the hierarchical clustering algorithm on this data using the method average, and the output would be transferred to an object called HC, and we'll be then plotting using HC. We will run this. Now the HC has been created, okay? A list of 7 which talks about the height of the data, order, label, all the hierarchical. So it will, the clustering data has been created. And when we plot this hierarchy clustering with labels as the index points, so all these are plotted in a, so we can display that in a full view. Okay, so if you want to create 2 clusters, you know how to create 2. Number of 3 clusters, so all these points become 1 cluster, another cluster, and the third cluster. When 2 clusters, so 99 were part of 1 cluster and 51 as part of another cluster, right? So this is how, and 1 cluster, you know how you can create. So I am able to create a dendrogram which is called the hierarchical clustering. And now let's assume we want to cut it at 3 levels of clustering. So there is a method called rectangular RECT, which is rectangular cut of H cluster from the object. So output was in HC and we are cutting it at level 3. So let's run it. So now it has cut into 3 clusters. Okay. So we can see the output of it. So do you see the red colored 3 colors now? Let's zoom it. Okay. Do you see these 3 clusters now? Right. So that's how the clustering can. So the cut has been made here, and accordingly these points, another cluster and the third cluster have been created. And in groups you would see the object points are assigned with group the cluster ID. Fine. So all these points, 40 random points were there, they are assigned with the cluster ID. So separately you can, so if you are a technology guy, all these points are part of your database, let's say. So you can create one more column and pass against these points, update with these cluster IDs 1, 2, 3, and then accordingly where you can run a command for from select star from table from where group is equal to 1, then all the data would be, where group is equal to 2 you have another set of data, and group is equal to 3 you would get the third data. All these points are there, so you extract the data separately. So that's how you can connect to database and update accordingly. So that was about the clustering algorithms. So k-mean clustering and the dendrogram hierarchical clustering. If you want, I can show you more examples from the k-mean clustering. So there's another data set which is part of the packages. So we'll use the built-in R data set which is called USArrest. It is a crime database which contains statistics in arrests per 1 lakh resident for assault, murder and rape in each of the 50 US states in a particular year. It includes also the percentage of population living in the urban population. So we can do a lot of analysis if you have the data. So what is USArrest? If you simply run it, you would see all 50 states and the data. What does this data contain? The murder percentage in 1 lakh, assault, urban population is 58%, and the rape count, right? So it has these 5, the state ID, right, state name, and 4 columns. Now when I run this, I am transferring that data to a object called df, data frame called df. Okay, now df also contains the same data. Fine. Now remove any missing values. So this could contain some missing values also. So we are going to remove them, which is using the method na.omit from this data set and move it to again the same data set. So we run it. Does it contain any? So 50 objects of 4 variables still. So there was no na.omit. Fine. Now we'll scale them, which is it is primarily to standardize the data. And we see all these data points have been scaled from in a very smaller scale. Otherwise, it would have a very large scale. Now we would be running these 2 packages. Within R, it is simple to compute and visualize the distance matrix using these functions get distance and fviz distance from this package called facto extra R, right? Facto extra package in R package. Okay, so these 2 methods we will be using. So get distance in df, it will calculate the distance method. Fine. Let me just minimize this so that the distance is calculated here. Okay. Then we run the fviz distance method, and which displays the data with respect to each other. So all 50 states are represented here. So you know where the distance is high, or right. So the distance calculation has been done. So we can compute k-mean now from this data df. Centers to number of start points, number of start. So number of iterations are 25. Okay, and the output would be transferred to k2. So let's see, we are running a k-mean clustering. So k-mean clustering has been done and k2 has been created. So k2, when we see, all these points have been assigned either 1 or 2. So all 50 states are either clubbed into 1 or 2. Okay, so let's see what is the structure of k2. So this is the structure of k2 object data frame, right? Now we will see the size of it. So now 2 clusters have been created with size 20 and 30. 50 states have been clustered into two of them. So the output of k-mean is a list of several bits of information, the most important being the cluster. So it's a vector integer from 1 to k. Center, so it also contains the center of the cluster. You see there? So 2 centers are created. Okay. Then you have the TOTSS, total number of squares. So this is the Euclidean distance. Withinness, so vectors of withinness cluster, sum of the squares, 1 component per cluster. So 1 value for each cluster, right? Withinness. So withinness of both the clusters values are defined, 46.57 and 56.1. And then total withinness is the sum of the squares. Then betweenness is between the sum of these squares. And size is the number of points in each cluster. So size we have displayed as 20 and 30. So any of these variables can be used using dollar signs. So k2 dollar size, K2 dollar cluster. Okay, so K2, let's say if we just run K2, we have all the data displayed, and when we say K2 dollar, all the points, all these which we discussed, let's say cluster, and when we run it, so all the 50 points have been assigned with the cluster ID, right? So now we know two clusters, some of the states, 20 states are in cluster 1, 30 in cluster 2. Now let's run another method, fviz cluster. So now these K2 has been defined, and so these are the two clusters, and this is the visualization part of it. The K2, which was the output of K-mean, right? And the data points are DF. So all these data points have been defined, and they are now visualized in two clusters, cluster 1 and cluster 2. Cluster 1 was 20 and cluster 2 was 30 points. Fine. Another method to represent it is you can use the standard pairwise scatter plot. So I'm using the scatter plot method, right? So in the scatter plot, all these points have been represented in red and the green one. Treasure. Okay. So we can run K-mean. One second. श्रेय दौड़ो जरा. Sorry for that. Okay. So we are running K-mean for let's say we start with 3 clusters, 4 clusters, 5 clusters, and all that. So K3, let's try to run it with 4 clusters and 5 clusters. Okay, so now we have all these points. K2 was with 2 clusters, right? K3 we have created with 3 clusters, 4 clusters, and 5 clusters. Now we would try to plot them with K2. So K2 output was K-mean with 2 clusters. We run it. P1 has been created. So we are if we run only this part, okay, so it will directly give you the output. But when we have moved it into P1, and finally we would print it separately, okay, in a single snapshot. So K is equal to 2, we are running and making the output in, moving it into an object called P1. So we run it. We run with 3, 4, and 5. Fine. Now we would grid arrange them. All these would be displayed in a single. P1, P2, P3, and P4 would be in number of 2 rows. So 2 by 2 matrix, it will display the data using this grid arrange. So grid arrange is using a package called grid extra. So first we will include that library and now run it. So all these, so clusters of 2 cluster, 3 cluster, 4 cluster, and 5 clusters have been displayed into a single snapshot. So guys, would you appreciate how we have done the clustering of all those 50 states into different clusters? In 2 clusters,